We decided to have another child when our son was, I think, around about 16 months. Yeah, tried for a couple of months, conceived naturally, and had a very straightforward first trimester. And then we rocked up to our 12-week scan, just ready for our first scan, and hello, there were 2 babies. The roller coaster really started from there. We barely had time to wrap our heads around the fact that we were having 2 babies, and they mentioned that one of them was a lot smaller than the other. We referred to the maternal fetal medicine team in Auckland, and they told us initially that there was a chance that our babies might not survive. They were sharing a placenta because they were identical, and they were not sharing it equally. But even from back then, they said that the end goal for us would be around 32 to 34 weeks. So if they did survive and make it, they were always going to be born early. I was actually in hospital for monitoring from 26 weeks pregnant. So they got to that nearly 32-week mark when they were starting to get into a little bit of trouble, and they thought, let's just get them out one day early because it's not going to make that much difference to them.
So I got a phone call like 10 o'clock, I think, and saying that I needed to come down. They were going to do an emergency C-section. And then so I managed to get enough time to get down there, and was there for the births, so that was really good. They
were both on breathing support as soon as they were born, so they were on something called CPAP to help keep the airways open so that they could breathe. They were on that for about 5 days before that came off. They were in incubators to help regulate their temperature because they were quite small. They were born at 1.8 kgs and 1.47 kgs, so quite little. They were being fed via an NG tube until they were big enough and strong enough to learn how to feed themselves. They were vomiting up a lot of their feeds, so their weight gain was quite slow. One of our smallest twin, Kaylee, she ended up catching a virus in NICU, probably about maybe 4 weeks in. I think they were a month old, and she was very congested, so she couldn't breathe very well, so she had to go back on some high flow to help support her breathing again for a couple of days. But that really set us back because she couldn't progress with her learning to feed, so she was just getting all her milk via the NG tube again. Once they were feeding without the NG tube, so Mila, our bigger twin, she took to it really well. She gained weight fine. She was ready to go home before Kaylee was. Yeah. Once Kaylee was fully breastfeeding, we had to do a few top-ups of milk via like a syringe just to get her a little bit more into her. And at that point, she started gaining weight. And we were able to go home. On
their due date?
Yeah, we went home on their due date.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I feel like the NICU journey or SCBU journey is really hard because when you're in it, it feels like you're never going to leave. So it's constantly feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I really struggled with that, sort of having an expectation in my mind of when we might get home, and that just kept getting pushed further and further back. But I think just knowing that eventually we would get home was sort of the only thing that kept us going. Sort of the doctors and nurses have focused a lot on the medical side of things, so it was nice to have the ladies from the Little Miracles Trust just being there for a support elsewhere, asking how we were going, how our son was. And then they also ran another support group for mums once you were in NICU, so we all talked about how our babies were doing each week, and everyone could have a little cry if they needed to, or there was some food, and it was just really good having that support of other mums that were going through that situation, because I didn't really know anyone else that had been through something similar to us. They're based right in the entrance to the NICU, so we could sort of say hi as we walked in, and they had a shop full of anything you might need for a prem baby or for breastfeeding and things like that, which was really handy that you could just get it while you were there instead of having to go elsewhere, because you don't really have time to go elsewhere when you're trying to focus on a NICU baby. If anyone was to find themselves going through a NICU journey themselves, I would just try and remember that it does end. It feels all very consuming at the time. It feels like you're never going to leave, but it does end, and you do get to bring your baby home.
Just know that they are in the best hands in there. The support and staff is amazing. And you just need to try be there as much as you can every day for them if you can.
I think it helps build your confidence if you can get involved as much as you can with their cares. And I think it helps as well to get your baby home earlier if you're there and you're doing as much as you can for them as well.
So our Little Miracles are doing really well. They're growing heaps. They're full of energy.
They're very happy, healthy girls. Interacting lots as they get older, which is really, really special. They're beautiful. They're doing amazing.